After filling her stomach from a trash can, she came to take her final exam. The terrible smell from her body disgusted her classmates, and even the teacher walked over ready to take away her test paper. Seeing how determined the girl was, the teacher reluctantly agreed to let her continue. But after the exam ended, the teacher excitedly called her over. It turned out this girl rarely came to school, but had gained knowledge through extensive reading. Emma lived in a huge slum, and she was unlucky from the moment she was born. Both her parents were drug addicts, and her mother also suffered from severe mental illness. Cursing, insults, and violent beatings filled Emma's childhood. Their only source of income was government child welfare payments, but without exception, her mother would trick her and steal the money every time. Emma had been wandering since she could remember, barely surviving by picking leftover food from garbage cans. Every time she walked into the classroom, Emma was greeted only by endless cursing and mockery. This was because she always gave off a terrible smell, and her hair was full of lice. It wasn't that she didn't care about hygiene, the family simply couldn't afford to pay the water bill. The cruelty of her peers made Emma start skipping school all day long. She only came to school during final exams, but every time she took a test, she scored 100 points. The teacher realized this girl had a very smart mind. The teacher warned Emma that she must come to school, or she would report her parents to the authorities. Emma agreed, but the hope she had just picked up for life was soon crushed by another huge despair. When Emma excitedly brought her perfect test paper to her mother, she saw her mother's worried face. Her mother told Emma that she had AIDS and wanted to move with Emma's sister to their grandfather's house. But Emma didn't want to abandon her father like this. She desperately wanted to save this already broken family. Unfortunately, Emma's stubbornness didn't lead to her mother's compromise. Her mother decisively left with Emma's sister. Emma had to take on the responsibility of caring for her father alone. Just as she had prepared lunch that day, people from the welfare agency came to the door. Because of her long-term truancy, the teacher had really reported her. The welfare workers wanted to forcibly take Emma away. Emma panicked immediately and kept saying good things about her father, promising that he would take good care of himself. But when her father heard this, he went alone to pack Emma's luggage. Until Emma was taken away, her father remained silent. At that moment, Emma realized that her father had really abandoned her. Emma was completely homeless now. The situation at the shelter wasn't much better either. Most of the people housed here were troubled girls. Picking fights and brawling happened every day. Their way of welcoming new members was simple and brutal. On Emma's first day there, she was doused with a bowl of scalding hot soup. She screamed in pain while the girls laughed wildly. Emma still had fantasies about this place when she first arrived, until one day, she saw a girl pour acid into another girl's shampoo. Only then did Emma realize that those jokes that weren't stopped would eventually nurture twisted evil. Here, Emma endured the most difficult 7 years of her life. It wasn't until she was 15 that she found a chance to escape, but she no longer had a home. Her father had been sent to a homeless shelter. Emma had no choice but to go to her grandfather's house. Fortunately, her mother had successfully quit drugs. She hugged Emma, as if she had become that kind and gentle mother again. The good days didn't last long. Her mother developed a drinking problem again. That night, her mother got drunk again, and the long-suppressed conflicts finally exploded. Her grandfather vented his inner dissatisfaction freely. He insulted Emma without hesitation and even kicked her out of the house. Emma was back on the streets again, homeless, but fortunately, this time she had a friend's company. This girl named Sarah had the same experiences as Emma. The childhood misfortunes they both suffered helped them comfort and warm each other. They wandered and begged together to get by. But even in such difficult circumstances, Emma would still find time to read books. Her body was impoverished, but her spirit was always rich. It was exactly this unwillingness to fall that destined her life to be extraordinary. Although she wandered every day, Emma would still secretly go back to visit her mother often. In her view, as long as her mother was alive, she would always be a child with a home. But misfortune forcefully pulled away the last straw in Emma's heart. The daily drinking finally broke down her mother's body. Emma didn't even get to see her mother one last time. The next day's funeral was extremely simple. No prayers, no tombstone, no flowers. Before her mother's coffin was buried, Emma jumped and lay on her mother's casket. This was her last time feeling her mother's presence up close. She didn't reluctantly stand up until the workers drove her away. When leaving, Emma was full of reluctance but powerless. At that moment, she finally realized that if she continued to fall and sink, she would inevitably repeat her mother's tragic fate. Only by continuing to study could she possibly save her life full of holes. That night, Emma knocked on her neighbor's door. She wanted to continue studying. The kind neighbor helped Emma apply for admission to a private school. Emma's determination moved the person in charge, and he gave her an application form. After Emma filled it out, she waited for the principal for 2 full hours. Emma openly talked about her broken life. She said she was very smart and knew she could succeed. She just needed an opportunity, a chance to climb out of her birth environment. She knew there was a better world outside, and she wanted to live there. Opportunities are always reserved for those who don't give up. Her sincerity finally moved the principal. He agreed to admit Emma, but this required the consent of a guardian. Emma had no choice but to go to the shelter to find her father and ask for his help. Her father didn't refuse. But the father and daughter who reunited after a long separation had nothing to say to each other. After completing all the procedures, her father looked at his daughter who had grown up in what seemed like an instant. He wanted to say something, but felt that he was so strange to his daughter. Those caring words that came to his lips just couldn't be spoken. Emma saw her father's embarrassment and was the first to say she loved him. Her father looked at Emma in disbelief. He didn't expect his daughter to have no resentment toward him at all. The only way her father expressed love was the hug he gave Emma at the end. And those words study hard. Emma watched her father's back and burst into tears. This was the first time she felt earnest expectations from her parents. From that day on, Emma devoted herself wholeheartedly to studying. When she encountered problems she didn't understand, she would find every opportunity to ask teachers for help. She had to catch up with 4 years of other people's coursework in 2 years. In addition, she had to work to earn her own living expenses. Even during dishwashing time, Emma was reluctant to waste it. Each of her days ended on the subway and began on the subway. This girl had long lost her home. The subway ran all night, and the time saved was just right for reading books. Her efforts were not in vain in the end. That morning, the principal told her that the top 10 students in the school could get a free trip to Boston. Emma felt a little disappointed when she heard this. She felt that with her grades, she couldn't possibly make it to the top 10. But the principal told Emma that she was first in the entire school. It wasn't until that moment that Emma had a clear understanding of herself. She realized she wasn't worthless after all. The first thing Emma did when she got to Boston was to visit Harvard University, which she had long yearned for. Everything there shocked this girl who was born in the slums. Looking at the towering buildings and students who all spoke elegantly, Emma secretly vowed in her heart that she would become such a person too. But Harvard's high tuition became the biggest stumbling block on Emma's dream path. Fortunately, at that time, the New York Times was willing to provide high scholarships for students with excellent grades, $12,000 a year, available for 4 years. But the application conditions were extremely strict. It was called the most difficult scholarship in America. In addition to excellent grades, applicants also needed to write an essay about challenges. Emma spent 4 full months preparing this essay. She didn't submit it until a few days before the application deadline, because that day was her 18th birthday, which meant new life. This essay would also become the turning point of her life. God will not let down any child who works hard. Emma finally passed the written test and successfully entered the interview. The day before the interview, Emma returned to her grandfather's house, which she hadn't been to for a long time. She went to borrow clothes from her sister to wear for tomorrow's interview. On the day of the interview, Emma appeared particularly calm. She spoke confidently about her life full of holes. In her view, those painful experiences were exactly the most precious wealth of her life, because she had drawn courage and strength from suffering, and this was enough to support her against everything. What she needed now was just an opportunity. After the interview ended, the chief examiner personally escorted Emma out. She had succeeded. At the award ceremony, a reporter asked her how she did it. Emma answered that her parents had shown her what another choice would look like. She never felt sorry for herself. That kind of life had always been her life. She felt lucky because any sense of security had been pulled away from under her, so she was forced to look forward. She had to do this, there was no way back. Her confident and calm attitude won applause from the entire audience. Finally, Emma got her wish and was admitted to Harvard with excellent first-place grades, but she didn't slack off. Instead, she continued to work hard and study further, doing her best to write a more brilliant life for herself.